So, I'm reading a book right now. I've already pretty much read this whole thing, but um, I have skipped around a little bit around this section of it, but did read this part traditionally, start to finish. And also, basically, the book is it's Dreamweaver by Jack Bowen, and it was recommended as a 101 book for philosophy. Sort of taking precedence class. Pretty much everybody here on the board probably has. And so I got to this one section. I found it super interesting, and I read a little bit of this before, and I kind of dove back into this just to get a stronger glimpse of it. And it's at the section where, well, basically this book's about a boy named Ian, who lets philosophy pretty much take him wherever the questions lead, basically. Quite a nice plot resource, I guess this author Jack Bowen utilizes is this sort of Merlin wizard-like, sage-like character that sort of guides Ian throughout his journey. And with no particular reference, he just names the old man. And so Ian, it's kind of confusing. Well, not confusing, but not stable the way this plot is, as far as most literature would have it, where you have a whole development of family and friends and everything. I mean, that's there, but it's not. Throughout this book, Ian is constantly unsure if he's really dreaming or he's awake, and he sees all these obscure things about, I guess, confusion about what is reality, because he's not sure when he's awake and when he's sleeping. An awesome thing, just like The Matrix, to play around with for a book or a film. And so I got to this section about the Taoists, and it's really about eliminating desire. And without having to read too much of this, Ian and the old man travel to this one Taoist guy. And the first impression that Ian gets is, well, he's expecting to learn about some sort of Eastern traditions, different ways of thinking about philosophy, and basically about the nature of things, good and evil, as it were. And so when he sees this Taoist guy, he's thinking to himself, um, well, he's faced kind of immediately with an ambivalence. He's expecting, from the reputation of this Taoist, to be surprised, but when he sees him, he looks like an ordinary man, and given the juxtaposition between holding the two together and kind of comparing them, it seems a little, I think paradoxical is the right word, a little ambivalent, if anything, confused internally. As the Taoist begins to speak, immediately he brings up the ideas about how Ian is from the West, and how he immediately came over here with preconceptions about expecting things. In the West, there's such a thing as good and evil, and that division is only made, I guess, by intellectual barriers, and this is something that he kind of hints at, but doesn't necessarily explicitly say. However, the author Jack Bowen puts a lot of cliff notes around here about, Anyway, so this Taoist begins asking Ian questions to kind of unravel his mind from how it's been already contaminated from the Western sorts of thinking. How there really is no division between good and evil. How it's just really a long line of, good and evil. It's really hard to even branch yourself out of this sort of thinking, given, myself, I'm speaking for myself, but how I was adopted into this framework, as it were, partitioning everything into these sorts of, good, evil sorts of things. Whereas this Taoist's understanding is that there is no fine line between this is good, this is bad. Rather, there's sort of a yin and yang balance where good things are bad things and bad things are good things. It's just a double-edged sword, so to speak. And anyway, so he begins to tell Ian some questions, which were rather unintuitive. He said, "What is your original face before you were born?" Then immediately Ian starts questioning, and he looks at him, and by the way, Ian's not allowed to respond, because immediately when he does, he's going to ruin the sort of meditation that's going on. Ian looks, and he's thinking to himself, before I was born, I didn't have a face. And that question seems to be kind of in contradiction. You know, when you're born, that's the moment materially you actually get the face, but before that, there doesn't seem to be any face. So apparent contradiction sort of seems to be, at least the way the question was phrased. And then the Taoist responds, change, whatever that's supposed to mean. Ian just, belligerently nods and says, okay. And then the next question he says, well, describe an apple without thinking of one. Okay. Now, of course, Ian, his head was starting to feel a little light. Of course, I don't expect this to really happen to every time you encounter a Taoist, but I guess the way that he was kind of controlling the conversation might have put Ian into this sort of fuzzy stage. And then he says, if you meet a man of the Tao on the roads, greet him with neither words nor silence. The questions now were starting to feel right. I didn't fight them. They just consumed me in a way. I think I understood what he had been saying. I was starting to feel it, yet as I started to feel it, I ignored the feeling. It was enlightening, but I was still trying to actually solve these things. It was nice, though. And then the Taoist tells him, that is what you need to do to become enlightened, Ian. It takes great patience. It takes time. And Ian says, yes, I think I understand. I was a little disappointed that we didn't go further, that he didn't let me sit in that state for a while. When you get to the state of enlightenment, you will recognize your part in the action in this universe. The universe is part of you. I smiled and sat there silently. He continued, it is in this way that you can eliminate evil, the evil that you and your Western cohorts are so concerned about. You can do this not by fighting outwardly, but looking inward. What you must do is eliminate your desires. And this is where I was talking about eliminating desires. And he writes this brilliant piece. I don't want to feel like I'm just storytelling reading to you, because I don't want to start a sort of reading on YouTube sort of thing, but I just found this 2 pages right here kind of mind-blowing. So I don't want to start any trend, again, like I'm saying, but I do want to share this part that I read with you guys. So what you must do is eliminate your desires. It is only from desire that evil springs. You desire money, and when you don't get it, you experience despair. You desire pleasure, and without it comes despair. And when your desires are satisfied, you become bored and anxious, looking for more desires to fulfill. It is an endless cycle that subsists as a universal human condition, and it's destined to fail, destined for sadness, pain, and evil. And then Ian started thinking about this. It was kind of a scary thought, and getting rid of desire, that seems impossible. What could be a way to even apply this to my life? And then the Taoist says, well, let me give you a way to apply this to your life. He said knowingly. Think of a time when you needed a good night's sleep. This one definitely applies to me. Perhaps to many people. The night before a big game or an important test, for example, you go to bed early and you lie there telling yourself, go to sleep, go to sleep. Basically, you lie there and desire to be asleep. But your desire gets in the way of your sleeping. As long as you're lying there thinking of yourself, I want to fall asleep, and whatnot, you don't fall asleep. You only attain your goal of sleeping when you stop desiring it. I just thought it was fascinating. So many times do I lie in bed and that happens. It's just like I have all the shit running through my day, and bam, it's just, I can't go to sleep sometimes. And it's one of those times where your eyes are closed but you're consciously awake, and you tell yourself you want to go to sleep, and that desire is truly there. And anyway, that one really applies, but to proceed, there's only a little bit left.